this the real life? Is this just fantasy?
Who was Freddie Mercury? If you want a real answer to this question, Bohemian Rhapsody may not be the best place to look. Fact checkers have a lot of bones to pick with the Queen biopic. Yet this hasn't stood in the way of it becoming a record-smashing audience favorite and award season darling. So how much does accuracy matter here? Musical biopics and biopics in general aren't documentaries, they're fiction. And they pretty much have to take creative liberties to fashion 2-hour dramatic arcs out of years of material. Yet with every alteration of fact into fiction, the filmmaker imposes their subjective narrative onto the history. They send a message. So even more interesting than the question of what's true or false here is why the movie changed what it did.
I'm going to be what I was born to be. A performer who gives the people what they want.
Bohemian Rhapsody understands very well what audiences really care about. It's the music. So the smartest thing it does is make this all about the soundtrack. You might even say the film is one long music video. Look at how this opening scene is shot and edited. The fast cutting between extreme close-ups and cutaways is a style we recognize from so many examples of the genre. In most films, the soundtrack is there to supplement the scenes. Here, it's the other way around. The film serves the soundtrack. Just as a music video might come up with a simple story to add a little entertainment in between shots of singing and dancing.
But I thought the old lady dropped it into the ocean in the end.
Well, baby, I went down and got it for you.
Structurally, too, the biopic builds its story around the songs we know and love.
I'm sorry, Freddie, come back!
And the whole film builds to the Live Aid concert. The movie also makes a point of Queen's interactivity.
I want to give the audience a song that they can perform, right? Let them be part of the band.
By making the songs the centerpiece, this movie cleverly replicates that talent for making the audience part of the music. In its final scene, this basically becomes a concert film. And it's telling that the producers of Bohemian Rhapsody even released a sing-along version of the film in theaters.
Join sing-along screenings.
So the fact that Bohemian Rhapsody has done as well as it has basically proves that Queen was so good.
I am the champion.
All this movie really had to do to give audiences a wonderful experience was not get in the way of the music. Between the hit songs and flashy set pieces, there's the small matter of having a life story to tell. How do you squeeze all of that into 2 hours? Fill gaps where hard evidence is scant, and deal with the fact that life simply won't tell itself in the most dramatic way possible. By being open-minded about the facts, of course. Many of Bohemian Rhapsody's factual edits work to fit Mercury's life into a standard rock star biopic formula. An unknown with big faith in his talent rises from obscurity, gets caught up in a sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle, drowns in his own ego until he learns humility and reunites with loved ones, then gives a climactic performance that shows how much he's grown. To fit this paint-by-numbers narrative, as some critics have called it, Bohemian Rhapsody plays a lot with chronology and heavily compresses the band's timeline. So in the movie, Freddie happens on the band he follows freshly without a lead singer. He aces the audition and gets the job on the spot.
Doing alright.
In reality, Mercury had known the lead singer from college and was already sharing a flat with his soon-to-be bandmates. This more succinct version of events is fabricated to introduce Freddie's character.
I'll consider your offer.
Even if others dismiss him as a weirdo, this is a young person who knows he's destined for greatness.
I was born with 4 additional incisors. More space in my mouth means more range.
Oh, and apparently Mercury really did say that about his teeth. The second fact-related strategy used here is invention. In Bohemian Rhapsody, we meet the EMI executive Ray Foster, who's dismissive of Freddie's magnum opus.
There's no way now the station will play a 6-minute quasi-operatic dirge comprised of nonsense words.
And who also didn't really exist. Apparently he's roughly based on Roy Featherstone, but the fictional character here, played by Mike Myers, in a fun nod to Wayne's World.
Well, that's the kind of song teenagers can crank up the volume in their car and bang their heads to. Bohemian Rhapsody will never be that song.
Personifies an entire industry that so often fails to understand the importance of pushing the envelope. But the most glaring invention in the film is the split up of the band brought on by Freddie's decision to go solo.
I've signed a deal with CBS Records.
Which didn't happen at all. Mercury wasn't even the first member of Queen to do a solo record. That was Roger Taylor, who in the movie utters this line.
You just killed Queen.
Brian May also went solo before Freddie.
I won't compromise my vision any longer. Compromise? Are you joking?
What's truly odd about this invention is that it's the central conflict of the whole plot. And we have to wonder, wasn't there any real major conflict the movie could have investigated to try to understand a deeper truth about Freddie Mercury? As David Ehrlich wrote for IndieWire, the truth was surely far more interesting. Bohemian Rhapsody summarizes Freddie Mercury, the myth. Flamboyant frontman, musical pioneer, queer icon, sex symbol, AIDS victim, and, of course, owner of that world-shaking voice. This movie's success tells us that Bohemian Rhapsody understands the expectations we bring to a biopic. Audiences come in with an idea of who Mercury was. And to a certain extent, they want to see that known story reflected back at them. So this leads us to another way this film, like any biopic, alters the facts. Through omission. Freddie's life before Queen is only briefly recapped in dialogue.
We were chased out with just the clothes on our backs.
The film nods at Freddie's discomfort with his otherness.
So now the family name's not good enough for you.
But it doesn't really go into why he feels this way.
No looking back, only forwards.
Apart from a couple generalized examples of racial slurs.
Wait, you missed one, Packy. Who's the Packy?
For me, Freddie will always be this frightened little Packy boy.
Meanwhile, Freddie's death from AIDS-related illness is a known part of his legacy.
I've got it.
So the movie makes sure to fit this part of Mercury's story in, even though its chosen 15-year time period doesn't coincide with Freddie's AIDS diagnosis and death. The result substitutes a generalized fictional experience for a real specific one. What is Bohemian Rhapsody using its changes to say about Freddie and the band? One big point the movie is making is that Queen is more than just Freddie Mercury.
I'm not the leader of Queen, I'm only the lead singer.
Freddie's character arc is structured around this revelation.
You need us, Freddie.
It's clearly true that Queen was more than Mercury. All 4 musicians are in the Songwriting Hall of Fame. The problem is that in order to facilitate this revelation, the movie dreams up a plot that shows Freddie drunk on ego and driven by greed, but there's no evidence of Mercury acting this badly. This biopic needed the approval of living band members May and Taylor to secure the music rights. As Kevin Fallon of the Daily Beast writes, the way it alters the history at Freddie's expense, quote, suggests the entire project was born out of a resentment from the surviving members of Queen. We keep being told through a lot of dialogue that Freddie is behaving terribly.
What's going on?
You know if you're on time?
I'm here, aren't I?
Are you?
But apart from the fact that he's a bit late to rehearsal, we're hard-pressed to understand why everyone feels that Freddie is acting like such a monster.
Sometimes you're a total prick.
By the end, he's forced to apologize and humble himself before the band.
Could you give us a moment, please, Fred? Why'd you do that? I just felt like it.
As Fallon writes, Bohemian Rhapsody smells like cinematic retribution, in which Mercury is posthumously punished, with his sexuality reduced to a partying vice.
Come on, your guests are waiting. They all want a little Mercury in their cup.
It's hard not to think that Mercury would have wanted a wilder, more boundary-pushing film. This is in fact what Sacha Baron Cohen, who was originally attached to star, had in mind. Stephen Frears told Vulture Cohen's vision was outrageous in terms of his homosexuality and outrageous in terms of endless naked scenes, which sounds very much in the spirit of Freddie Mercury himself. Overall, the movie's changes to Mercury's life represent a missed opportunity to tell a more truthful or provocative story. All the same, when we exit the theater, this movie leaves us wanting to listen to more Queen. Bohemian Rhapsody knows that audiences love nothing more than a great rock concert. And we're not there to learn new lyrics. We just want to sing along to the music.
Hi guys, Susanna and Deborah here. If you like what we do and you want to help us grow, one of the best things you can do is support us on Patreon.
We make special polls for our patrons where you can vote for a video you want us to make.
And right now we're giving away 3 free months of Mubi, a really fantastic movie streaming service.
Love Mubi.
We're such fans.
Awesome.
And we're giving that away to a limited number of patrons, so be one of the first to go check it out.
The link is right here.